Quite another interesting project this week. I've seen this study in Popular Mechanics around a glove to hack your dreams. And essentially what this is Arduino based device that has multiple sensors on it. It's got skin perspiration, heart rate, a couple of other things as well. And it's been done by MIT, by their Dream Lab. It's a custom glove so that you can have it as a wearable. It looks like, it's pretty funky. It looks like something from Cyberpunk. But it's a really good read actually, the actual study. The primary focus of the paper is essentially hypnagogia and those transitional states between wakefulness and sleep and those phenomena that happen in between there. Examples of these kind of phenomena is one is out of body experiences. Those are real things, they happen and they can be reproduced in lab settings. So it's not this isn't pseudoscience. I've even had a couple of these myself and they are pretty profound. Although with that being said, I should caveat that I don't think this is a situation where you actually do leave your body. I do think it is a product of your imagination, and that's pretty much what these all of these lab studies that have been done suggest as well. But that has a lot to say about what your mind and imagination is capable of, and I think that's just as exciting as well, maybe not as exciting as actually leaving your body in some astral plane, but it's still it's still a pretty amazing experience. The other thing is, I've touched on it in the last videos, is lucid dreaming, which is also well documented. A bit rarer in this situation because lucid dreams, generally they have a much different physiological profile than the phenomena that we're talking about here, which is predominantly an NREM sleep. So you don't have the rapid eye movement. So we're not going to be able to use that kind of mask setup that I had in the last video. We are going to have to rely on different kinds of changes in physiology to be able to understand and mark out where this activity is happening. And one of the big reference points, and it's something that's referenced a lot when people talk about hypnagogia and the experiments that historically have been done, and that's Thomas Edison's experiments and what's known as the steel ball technique. So it's quite well known that Thomas Edison took naps. A lot of naps. He was a power napper, and he had a method where he would hold a steel ball in either hand, and as he drifted into sleep in his armchair, you would no longer be able to hold the steel ball, and they would drop and hit the floor, and then the noise would wake him up. As he woke up, he would scramble down the notes of all of the little micro dreams and ideas that came to mind. And supposedly he attributes a lot of his great ideas and thinking to this hypnagogic state of consciousness. And we're going to try and replicate that same kind of experiment and process that Thomas Edison did and what they tried doing with the Dormio using open source hardware. We're going to do that using the Bangle.JS, which is a very cool piece of kit which I managed to get my hands on earlier this week. The Bangle.js doesn't have all of the sensors and capability that the Dormio glove has, but that particular study had a much wider remit than just this specific use case of inducing hypnagogia. I think we will be able to get by with just the heart rate. I don't think we need anything more than that. And the reason is, as a lot of you will know, is that your heart rate does drop as you fall asleep beyond what it normally is during the day. You don't necessarily need to know what value it drops to, but it's handy to know those kind of statistics on your heart rate. The other thing that happens is it fluctuates a lot less as well. So all you really need to look out for is that drop in heart rate and its volatility. And you can see that actually. This is a graph of my own heart rate that I've been tracking with another fitness product. The Bangle.js is in a unique position because you can trigger sound and audio based on heart rate. And you can also set off a vibrating motor. And that's actually the function we're going to use because the getting any audio from this it's actually too quiet for anything useful here. You need a level of control of over the hardware to be able to do that kind of thing. So it's not like you can just use any old fitness tracker and be able to do this. It is quite a niche requirement, and I genuinely can't think of any other device that you can do this on, bar recreating the whole thing in Arduino or Raspberry Pi. But it's great that we've got a kind of off-the-shelf product that we can just get going with for this. So this is the Bangle.js. You can program this using Espruino, which is a JavaScript-based way of programming microcontrollers. You can kind of think of it along a similar kind of line to CircuitPython. It's that kind of level. And I guess the other distinct advantage of JavaScript in particular is you can do everything in the browser. So in Chrome, you can connect to the watch in the browser, the IDE's there, so they're connected to the file system, it's all integrated. And The whole system's very reliable. As I say, Espruino's been around for quite some time, although this device is new, so I guess you would expect that reliability. In terms of features on the watch, it's got an accelerometer on it, and it has a heart rate monitor. I've downloaded an application that just kind of tracks heart rate. It'll take a minute for it to calibrate and get correct. Obviously my heart isn't going 6 beats a minute. I'd be in big trouble if it was, but you'll see that number kind of go up shortly. You do have to wear this quite snug to get the heart rate working properly. It's also got GPS on here. I'm indoors, so obviously you're not really going to see anything interesting there. The other thing that's quite interesting is it's got support for TensorFlow Lite, so you can do AI applications on here as well. I haven't really done much of that before, but I'm sure there's some really good uses for that. There's also a magnetometer. It's a OLED display. There's a lot of features in here that I'm not going to get a chance to go through in this video, so definitely check out some of the other unboxing and review videos for that. I'll show you the application that I've made here, which is called Steel Ball. Basically, you scroll through the watch and then you go into the application. And the first thing you'll see is when you want the alarm to trigger. So if you know that your current heart rate is, for example, mid 80s, and you know that your heart rate generally drops to mid 60s when you're falling asleep, then you would just set the heart rate appropriately. And then when you've done that, you just press the middle button and then it will start tracking your heart rate. When it drops to the relevant level, it will trigger the alarm and it will wake you up. I haven't really programmed anything visually for this because when you're using this application, you're not really going to be looking at the screen. But I do display at least your kind of average heart rate at the moment and the standard deviation. And those are the two key metrics for the alarm. I've been using the watch for about a week or so, and the results have been pretty good. One thing I've noticed is I do need to set the target heart rate to quite a specific level. So my one is 68, and if I'm slightly above that, then the alarm will trigger at a point where, I'm quite clearly awake and it doesn't really do anything useful. If it's too low, what happens is I fall asleep and I'm in too deep a state of sleep to pick the alarm up, because it's basically a vibrating motor, and I guess I'm just not light enough of a sleeper for me to pick that up. So it has to be at a specific level. There have been some nights where I've literally just slept through the alarm, but on the occasions that it has induced hypnagogia, it's a weird experience because you think you're awake and you're not, and that's the point the alarm triggers you awake. So it's quite hard to explain. Had some kind of interesting visual effects. I've also had a couple of instances where I've had sleep paralysis as well, and that's happened mostly when I've been using it in the mornings just as I've woken up, and that's usually a precursor to things like out-of-body experiences, but I haven't actually got that quite far. There's a lot of fear associated with having sleep paralysis, but it doesn't really bother me because I guess I'm quite well practiced, but certainly for people that are going through it for the first time, they definitely find that a bit weird. I think that's one thing I should caveat with this whole project is that I do have some experience of experimenting with this state just without any device, so I think this will probably help with my practice. It'll probably be of more benefit to someone new to kind of like meditating and practicing lucid dreaming and that kind of thing. It's just another aid that you can use and include in your toolkit, I guess. It's definitely not some kind of final complete solution, not at this stage anyway. I might look at integrating another Bluetooth speaker or something that's just a bit more louder than what the watch can give in terms of an alarm. And we can also look at things like heart rate variability and other algorithms, just using what's available on the watch. So there's plenty of options in terms of extending the base code. There's a lot more detail in the blog write-up that I have on my website, and all of the code for the application is on GitHub. And in there's a bunch of other links to kind of like supporting information that is useful to take a look at, including the link to the Dormio study, which I definitely recommend reading just if you're generally interested in this kind of thing. And credit to Gordon Williams, who's the man behind making this watch, and the Espruino platform that you can use to program apps on it. It's one thing to be able to make these devices and quite another to make them in a way that is very easy for users like me to develop things on. So I hope that gives you some ideas and inspiration for similar kind of projects you can do with a Bangle.JS. Definitely not done with this product either, so look out for more projects using this watch.